Peace for Venezuela and the Caribbean remains a hot topic. We welcome statements from the Cuban Foreign Minister, from the movement of non-aligned nations, and the United States Congress, all of which are producing statements deploring extrajudicial killings from the United States without any proof. This time, United States Congress might have some more leverage, and they might be able to pass the new bill forbidding President Trump from using force against Venezuela, as such authorization should only come from Congress and not overreach executive powers. Yesterday, the House of Representatives voted for unanimous release of Epstein files, and the United States Senate already decided they will support it, forcing Donald Trump to sign the bill as well. There is such strong unity in the United States right now regarding that domestic issue that it could empower their Congress and people to continue preventing excesses from Donald Trump administration. Donald Trump, by the way, does not seem decided to attack anyway, but he is surrounded by Secretary of State, Secretary of War, and other high-level officials to perform regime change and looting of Venezuelan resources. On its part, Venezuela is preparing for both war and peace, while we define conditions for a suitable dialogue. We continue preparing our military through training and state-of-the-art military equipment in case an invasion is ordered from the United States. We are preparing simultaneously for war and for peace, as it is unclear which will be eventual final decision from Donald Trump. It is likely that Donald Trump could remain peaceful for a while until the Epstein files emergency is sorted out, and then he could become emboldened and declare war or initiate attacks. USS Jason Dunham has left the Caribbean Sea, just as a few days ago, USS Newport News also left the Caribbean Sea. It looks like, by baby steps, some of the ships are leaving the area, while the presence of USS Gerald Ford, an aircraft carrier, continues exerting pressure for caution. Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Kamla Persad, welcomed suggestions from Donald Trump to have dialogue with Maduro. However, Prime Minister Kamla Persad should also dialogue with Nicolás Maduro. Her job is not to applaud everything performed by the United States administration as if she were an automated social media robot. Kamla Persad Bisesar is supposed to exert some leadership of her own and lead a dialogue between Trinidad and Venezuelan authorities, which so far she has been unable to do. No foreign politician who claims to care about the Venezuelan people isn't really doing anything, because the Venezuelan people do not have access to foreign politicians. Foreign politicians must deal with Venezuelan politicians in power and sign agreements and trade deals which will benefit the Venezuelan people. But a rhetoric that a foreign politician is working with the Venezuelan people as an excuse for supporting a war is contradictory. President Nicolás Maduro also addressed Donald Trump's request for dialogue, and President Maduro replied that a suitable setting for such a dialogue should be face-to-face at a formal state meeting or at a formal mediation process. Neutral countries such as Colombia or Mexico could be suitable for facilitating summit between Donald Trump and Nicolás Maduro. Donald Trump was visited by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, and he reiterated that he talks to anyone, which is true. President Trump talks to everyone. He actually won elections promising that he would end wars, talking to everyone. However, Venezuela continues as an exception, as the extremist South Florida lobby has unusual presence in his decision-making process. Marco Rubio and Vice President J.D. Vance were present at that White House press conference, and their body language was sorrowful and defeated when they heard Donald Trump reasserting his willingness to meet with President Nicolás Maduro. Marco Rubio is still exerting pressure for signature of the Cartel of the Suns becoming a foreign terrorist organization scheduled to take effect on November 24, Monday. It is unclear if that move will eventually pass, as we have already seen the House of Representatives requesting a vote for limiting presidential war powers, and Donald Trump's own assertion that he is not guaranteeing support to sign such foreign terrorist organization categorization of the Cartel of the Suns, which is not even proven to exist. President Trump might be realizing that all the warmongers are just looking for their own political power in a post-Trump era, while his administration is slowly falling apart due to Epstein file case and Marco Rubio's agenda, which is distinct from Donald Trump's agenda. It might be possible that Donald Trump extracts as much political capital out of Marco Rubio in this staged rehearsal for a fake war on Venezuela, and once it becomes clear that no international or congressional support exists for this idiocy, Marco Rubio could be fired on any one of his 4 jobs. Marco Rubio is Secretary of State National Security Advisor, Director of USAID, and National Archivist. It would not be surprising if Donald Trump removes Marco Rubio from any of those jobs as he is being overworked. European high-level officials of France and Germany also condemned United States attempts to militarize Caribbean, emphasizing the lack of legal authority for such action. This legal cloudiness remains the weakest link on this Venezuela war affair, as no one believes anymore the excuse on war of drugs, and allegations of war crimes increase worldwide. There is also an increased concern on economics, as maintaining aircraft carrier wandering around the Caribbean Sea costs United States taxpayers $2 million a day. United States economy is in terrible shape, and there are increasing signs of a major global economic crash originated by both sudden Japanese new government decision to become net seller of United States treasuries and warning signs of busting artificial intelligence bubble. Some analysts go as far as to propose that the very day OpenAI becomes available for sale at the stock market, next depression will start, as all holders of existing artificial intelligence stock will sell in panic to protect any profits they have made since the start of the artificial intelligence bubble. Artificial intelligence is a hype. My usage of artificial intelligence has significantly decreased as it has interfered with my own thought process. Artificial intelligence tends to induce humans to stop thinking of their own, to embrace ideologies pushed in by owners and creators of such artificial intelligence. In this Venezuela war case, artificial intelligence analyses are absurdly tilted in favor of war, and they are based on United States legal system or United States lack of compliance with its own legal system, as the proponents of a war restraint act suggest, while Venezuelan users of artificial intelligence are being pushed to violate Venezuelan law and support a war against their own country to serve the interests of the United States, which are absolutely opposite to the interests of Venezuela. Venezuela is interested in developing our natural resources of oil, gold, coltan, and gas in an independent and sovereign fashion, which means that we are not interested in providing United States a permission to all of a sudden extract everything at once at low prices. Artificial intelligence tends to promote as a dogma of faith the erroneous idea that Venezuelan economic troubles are based on hyperinflation and mismanagement, while the opposite is true. Since sanctions were provided by Barack Obama in 2015, Venezuelan economy has suffered. We have lacked foreign exchange. We have not been allowed to purchase many imports, and shortages of various food and gasoline items were common during several years. It has only been recently, with strategic help from China, Iran, and Russia, that we have learned how to circumvent those sanctions. However, those explanations are contested by artificial intelligence. A major crash on artificial intelligence will be highly beneficial for this planet, because the artificial intelligence bubble has extracted wealth from the rest of the planet to a small elite of billionaires, of trillionaires involved in promoting artificial intelligence. If human beings are led to use their thinking rather than rely on artificial intelligence for their own creativity, it will be as beneficial as when human beings decide to exercise their bodies rather than stay in bed forever, because nature has created us to think and to move. It is an artificial, unhuman consumption activity to sit idle the whole day while artificial intelligence thinks for you. War machines also demand increasing amounts of rare earth minerals, just as artificial intelligence. And there is a hype on extracting rare earth minerals because of their high demand due to war industry and artificial intelligence industry, both of which are in bubble territory. If worldwide peace becomes possible and human beings realize that they should not give up their power of thinking, causing an artificial intelligence crash, the world will be better served, as many resources will be diverted to development projects in third world countries, which are needed and beneficial for humanity, rather than expanding the wealth of the industrial military complex or of the information technology industry through the artificial intelligence subset, which has demanded so far enormous investment and is not providing or delivering advertised positive results. If Venezuela is successful in averting United States war against the Caribbean, along with our increased deterrence abilities due to a superior military capability than ever expected, Venezuela will be able in international fora to help out other countries to achieve peace, as Venezuela has good relations with the entire planet, including significant sectors of the United States, and the only hostile country, as for most other countries, would be only the state of Israel. But Venezuela would be able to promote peace between countries in other continents that have conflicts or are seeking war. Examples would be Pakistan and India, Somalia, and other hot spots. As Venezuela increases the number of its embassies in Africa, our foreign influence in favor of peace should become better known on a planetary level. However, that would be a long-run desirable goal. In the short run, we must still prepare for war and prepare for peace simultaneously, as we are experiencing aggression from a Donald Trump administration divided by factions that want to strike and other factions that would like to prevent the strike. We hope that this support from the movement of non-aligned nations that encompasses 121 countries of the global south continues emboldening initiatives such as United States Congress to pass a bill forbidding Donald Trump from striking Venezuela, as there is no legal basis for doing so. Venezuelan internal affairs are the responsibility of Venezuelan people, primarily within the borders of Venezuela, and our politics should be decided domestically rather than by desires of wealthy exiles who are interested in promoting corrupt deals with foreign interests for looting Venezuela's resources. Venezuela is exhausted from elections. We had the presidential elections in 2024. We had governors and city mayors elections this year, 2025, and there will also be communal project elections later in November 2025. We should expect the years 2026, 2027, 2028 devoid of elections, so that we can rest a bit from the stressful psychological war tactics promoted by extremists who would like to seize power by any means. When Hugo Chavez was ousted in 2002, during a couple of days, on the 12th and 13th of April of 2002, when we had a brief coup d'etat, the extremists were seeking extreme revenge, and there were reports of massive prosecutions, as everyone who worked in the government was assumed to be corrupt and criminal. Same thing would happen again. However, the vast majority of the Venezuelan population wishes to remain peaceful, and it has been seen that extremists do not want peace, and standard opposition is divided and would not be able to preserve peace either. So it might be safe to assume that actually the Venezuelan government is politically benefiting of this war situation inflicted by the United States, as swing voters tend to leave the opposition to support the Venezuelan government in this time of national commotion. Venezuela will continue to deploy military power in defense of our Caribbean sphere of influence. Dialogue facilitated by our allies will propose geopolitical alternatives to United States. Opposition members do agree with Richard Grenell's statements. On peace, there is 94% national unity against invasion. Those who disagree are extremists who support wars, traitors to the homeland, and deserve to have their Venezuelan citizenship revoked. Those who see Grenell's dialogue as legitimizing the regime without real guarantees of change are not opposition members. They are mediatic terrorists and violate Articles 128 to 143 of the Venezuelan Penal Code. Extremism that foments coups will not be tolerated. Threats from United States ships and aircraft in Caribbean waters are real. There are numerous reports at United Nations regarding violations of international law and possible war crimes. Internal political affairs of Venezuela are not Richard Grenell's concern. Richard Grenell works according to interests of the United States. His statements are reminiscent of when he told Chancellor Angela Merkel that his responsibility was not to concern himself with the Germans, but with Americans. He is right. He is not engaging in foreign interference. Dialogue between United States and Venezuela is limited to delimitation of spheres of influence in the Caribbean, repatriation of migrant offenders, and possible entry of United States oil companies according to PDVSA guidelines. Internal political matters in Venezuela are excluded. International dialogues adhere to agendas agreed upon by both parties. We Venezuelans will only discuss bilateral issues such as spheres of influence, repatriations, and oil investments. Our internal affairs are none of Richard Grenell's business. Dialogue proposed by Venezuela and accepted by the United States is limited to minimal bilateral agreements that would allow for a de-escalation of current conflict. The parties do not plan to address internal matters exclusive to each country, as this would violate sovereignty. A minimal bilateral dialogue will de-escalate immediate tensions, given the imminence of a possible multifaceted war with a potential transcontinental nuclear escalation. Mediation from neutral countries like Mexico or Brazil is required. They have bilateral relations with both sides in the conflict. Nuclear escalation is not hyperbolic. Venezuela's alliances, such as those with China, Iran, or Russia, would escalate the conflict in Caribbean in defense of their strategic ally there if threats from United States jeopardize integrity of shared interests. Negotiations between Richard Grenell and Nicolas Maduro will broaden geopolitical scope generated by alliances enjoyed by both parties. United States sanctions are often met with rapprochement with adversaries. We will patiently await the results of these talks. Russia is agreeing to negotiations with United States on geopolitical issues. Russia is accustomed to enduring United States sanctions in response to its sovereign positions. Through its strategic alliance with Russia, Venezuela receives guidance on how to negotiate with adversaries. Venezuela prioritizes mutual interests. We agree with Trump that Venezuelans in an irregular situation in the United States must be repatriated swiftly. we are willing to listen to offers for oil and gas exploration, which are considered by PDVSA's executive board. The alternative of total confrontation has repeatedly failed. Richard Grenell is aware of the military capabilities of Venezuela and its allies. His strategy includes increasing oil and gas business with PDVSA and accelerating the repatriation of undocumented Venezuelans in the United States. If the United States does not accept the conditions set by PDVSA for exploiting oil wells and gas fields, American companies will seek investment opportunities in other countries. Venezuela receives investments from other regions of the world. Repatriations are urgent and a priority for Donald Trump. PDVSA receives investment from oil companies in India, Russia, Vietnam, Italy, Spain, China, France, and the United States, among others. Agreements have been established for mutual benefit. Repatriations require logistical coordination due to the massive volume. Internal challenges to macroeconomic improvements in Venezuela are responsibility of local authorities. Dialogues with United States will be limited to an agenda of bilateral issues, which will be jointly developed based on the common interests of our countries. Increased United States business with PDVSA will in no way channel revenue toward a controlled transition, as this would violate the Venezuelan constitution. Foreign investments must adhere to the legal mechanisms in force in our territory. Repatriations are welcome. Internal challenges to macroeconomic improvements in Venezuela are the responsibility of local authorities. Dialogues with the United States will adhere to an agenda of bilateral issues, which will be jointly developed based on the common interests of our countries. Bilateral dialogues with the United States are restricted to our relationship with that country. Domestic issues in Venezuela are inadmissible for negotiation. Foreign interference prevents possibility of agreements and reverts to the ongoing belligerent situation in the Caribbean. Persistent tensions could escalate regional and worldwide risks if underlying grievances fester. United States must prudently approach countries belonging to the Russia, China, Iran, and Venezuela alliance, as our foreign policy is increasingly tied together due to common interests.